Gamer 1745 here, and we're going to be playing some War Thunder. I hope everything is going to work well. Okay. Well, testing. Yep, things seem good. All right, so escape. We're returning to hangar. Yes. Does anybody actually come back and watch the start of these? If they do, say hi. All right. Well, there's nobody else here yet with me today. People are probably just, busy hiding, whatever. All right, let's drive some Panthers, shall we? Maybe some people will be showing up. There we go. So far, so good. Who are we battling? Everyone. Or just Germany? Just keep moving to this next clump of trees, ridge, whatever. In here. Somebody's spotting away across the map. Useful, but not so much for me at the moment, I don't think. Ah. Of course, I see him there. There's somebody. Hit him. Oh, that's a lot of artillery, more than just mine, I believe. Even more depression. Damn. Oh, well, I got him. Stops just as I'm needing him. Well. I should push up or push across. See, if I push across, everyone else is going to push across the map. Should be right over in there. And then we'll leave this flank unattended. And hey, Gemnuska. Yes, we're Thunder. Oh, bothering me. Of course, could kill me if it has the right weapons. And I don't have anything to do against it, really. I know I could try moving, but we can get on target. They're all moving across. Could get into that camouflage net, but I don't know if that's going to keep the aircraft from seeing me at this point. Well, let's move up to this next building maybe here. Get a little cover from aircraft. You know, as soon as I leave this area, they'll start popping in and pushing me. But if I stay here, no one will show up, and it'll make bad TV. Earlier, approaching gonna be which I knew if I should stay or go. They're actually behind me now. Oh goody. Get on one last move in that direction. Maybe it'll cover my throwing my ass to the enemy. Let's hope he doesn't think the enemy will be coming in this. Oh, he popped smoke. Where was he facing when he popped smoke? Towards the enemy. Not towards me, the enemy. Towards his perceived enemy. Okay, turret group mostly down at least. Here we go. Here in the beat point. Okay, you see coming from over there. Got him. That sounds close. Yes, see, it was quite close. Look within to find the enemy. Sounds too deep for me at the moment. Look towards the front a little bit more there. Just a little while ago. Maybe he would have killed the guy before he... There you go. You know, I'm moving back towards A. C, we're getting B. Thank you, I needed that. Really helpful to have friendly shooted you so that you're worried about where the enemy is. And it's awesome. Okay, artillery on A. Will help cover my approach, maybe? Confuse them a bit. Even do damage or take him out? There he is. Ah, got my breach, damn. Breaches seem to go pretty easy here. I don't know if that's quite realistic. That's good. My crew. You've got my barrel. Come on, team. Oh, good. Somebody got him. At least my team did something good here. Now that guy has Ukrainian flags all over his vehicle, so I'm guessing he's Ukrainian. The two now. Lovely. Oh, they're all over here. Okay. Um, yes, another panther. Why not? Just went straight towards A again. I'm going to try to flank it a little bit. And I hit him. Maybe no damage or eating enough. Oh, hit him again. Making him fly too high. And this is a real problem here. Back up. Don't fly over you. That's what I was taught by a PT boat commander. And how to deal with aircraft. Ah. Credit for his crash landing, probably, but still. One of my teachers was a PT boat squadron commander. Don't know if anybody knows what a PT boat is. And we win. I'm sure Januska knows, but I don't like that one. Requires me to Ah, okay, that sounds sort of fun. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and live with these two. No, I think I'm going to go here. That way, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can join. Okay. Don't necessarily pay attention to those messages. You can either in chat say hi and ask to join, or join the GHQ. Even if you can't use the mic, you can still just listen there. Oh goody. He decided he's a pathetic Italian and might as well end himself now. Sounds about right. No, I'm heading in the wrong direction. Getting that track. What? Why was I heading in this? I don't know, got pointed in the wrong way to start for some reason. This is where I was thinking I was going to go. Yeah, see, you made the fatal flaw. You shot at me and you didn't kill me. So you can't kill me. But if you shoot at me, you should kill me. Yeah, I could be looking through my binoculars, not paying attention well enough. There's something close up like I just wasn't. And you get a great shot at me. Huh? Is that a Hungarian? Yeah. Okay, he is looking through his sights, probably. Oh, I thought I saw fire coming from just behind this tree. Oh, there's the bushes. Maybe it's behind the hill. And the one big fatal flaw here is if I can't maneuver, I can't shoot you. So yes, he shot at me, didn't kill me, but it was a maneuver kill. Hello, I see you there. You're the French guy I killed reincarnated. I believe that is the French version of an American. Charmant. It's coming to exit. We're going to leave it this way. So, expecting you here, maybe. And boom. Straight behind me? Oh my god. Straight behind me. They say the key to this game, be unexpected. I did not expect anybody behind me. Where did he go? One more over here? Oh, how did this back along here? He was over here more. Okay, that's now. Yeah, they're shooting at each other over there. Let's see. They charge. Very good. Always busy with everybody else. Depression, 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 depression. Got him. I know, helped by the other guys. For sure. Was doing my part here, trying to cap, decap, whatever. That's my corpse. Hey, ZZ. How you doing? And boom. Well, not that we're going to win this or anything, but let's see if I can shoot down some of my tormentors. There we go. I'm down. How did I miss all that? Oh, there we go. I'm a happy man. After over a week of terrible lower back pain from muscular strain, I'm feeling much on the recovery. Great. Very good to hear. I sometimes have little bits of problem with that. There we go. Yes, it's good to get rid of that thing. Oh, 3 down. Oh, got some artillery on this guy right there. How much? It looks like he's going to come over the ridge with me. I'm seeing me shoot here. And he got me. Well, in that few moments, it's the friends don't get them beforehand. Man. Ooh, I clipped your barrel. You're 50 up there, I think. You have time to circle around the flank. You see the other one there, too. You're without a barrel. I don't think you prepared this fast. Yep. Wow. Gotcha. 5 for 9, last few moments. Gotcha. There's somebody over here. Did he die or? Oh, there he is. Oh, final blow. Okay. Almost on to you. Okay, let's see. Try to join your squad. Well, yes. We'll send, and I will send him in. Let's see, there he is. Now we'll have to, even though he doesn't have a mic, I know, I think. But come on in. Okay, he's there. Not ready yet. Okay. We're gonna. Yes, I think Trump is going to win this. I'm not going to go lower. Yeah, I know you don't have very good tank, but I am trying to grind a bit for this here. So I want to grind here, whichever one is current. I'll buy the one that isn't current, that ended. So, yeah, I'm grinding, guys. And I think I need to be 3-0. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but how do I put this? I've watched a lot of U.S. elections. I see that there's a lot of frustration. I also feel that the left has fear-mongered about Trump to outrageous levels, unhinged levels that I only think convince themselves. And I think the left has planned a lot of shenanigans for the election, but I think even states like Virginia are in play. So now watch me be incredibly wrong, but I don't think so. But I have to wonder, seriously wonder, if the left hasn't planned on losing all along. Why the hell stay with Joe Biden? But they switched to Kamala. Yeah, I know. Um, just gone way too reliably blue in the last 2 decades. Yeah, I know the greater Washington metropolitan area, and you very well may be right, but it's traditionally been said that I forget the percentage of the black vote that the Democrats require to win. Um, oh shit, there's somebody way out there already. Wow. Um, I just don't see the black vote turning out for Kamala. Oh, our killer just got hit by somebody good. Um, but you're much closer to it than I. Um, yeah, I know they switched out Kamala for Joe Biden once Joe Biden, and this some people say, oh, that was the plan all along. No, we got Youngkin elected, so yeah. Well, you see, okay, it doesn't take everyone to come out and vote for Trump. Okay, all it takes is enough people not to vote. And like you say, you got Youngkin elected. Okay, so there is, compared to somebody like Mitt Romney or John McCain. Okay, I'm comparing those to Trump right now, not maybe Trump the first time when they really smeared him as a racist and they got a lot of black people to come out and vote for Joe Biden. I don't see that now, particularly black males, but also I think black females too are not living in fear or thinking um, Trump is going to do something super racist or whatever. And I think they're very unimpressed with Kamala and Joe Biden because they are no Obama. And so I don't see, and again, I don't live in that world, if you know what I mean, and you don't have to be black to sort of to know, I'm not from the South. Yeah, there's, in Southern California where I'm from, obviously there's a large black population, but man, this is just coming up here getting destroyed. One more shot at this guy. Okay, I think it's probably the same guy as. Oh nope, I'm down to anti here. Um, and I've known enough black people over the years, but I don't live in the communities where they're, you know, a majority or whatever you want to say. So, um, so I really, I'm getting it from media sources, shall we say. And I just think Trump is too cool for them to be overly opposing him. Enough that's motivating to come out and vote. Just, it's surprising at trying to get people, looking at motivations to vote and getting people to show up at the polls. They lost their major point of he's going to nuke end the world. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is suburban white women or whatever you want to call them doomed Trump in 2020 because they just wanted everything to go back to normal because Trump was the big divisive personality on the stage, or so they were told. If you just vote for Joe Biden, things will be calmed down. And nothing calmed down. They were still constantly running as if Trump was president, even though they were president. And you even have Walt particularly saying, we can't take 4 more years of this. 4 more years of what? Democrats? 4 more years of Kamala Harris as no, it's what it is 4 more years of Trumpism. If we just defeat Trump now, Trump will go away and everything will be fine. Well, that's not how this works. And people are waking up to this fact. So the, vote for normalcy is gone, in my opinion. And we also definitely see, Trump as the peace candidate, not as the war candidate. Like he was never the war candidate. But, it was branding that made him seem like he was. You get, if you look before he runs for office, you get many, many pictures at events where he's like at least virtually the only white guy in the room. Now, is he pandering, or are they sucking up for potential of being on The Apprentice or for donations to whatever group or cause they represent? Oh, quite probably, in both cases. But he had no significant history of racism. Oh, a few people had sued over something, claimed racist policies at building whatever. Well, that's just a tactic that somebody's using in a legal case, not anything real, and probably nothing to have to do with him, but more mid-level management type in his organization. So I think a lot of the scare tactics have worn off. And we're also seeing massive amounts of early voting by Republicans. Now, it's not meaning that these are additional votes, but, because Republicans traditionally have voted on the day. And so, okay, well, now they're early voting. So it's sort of cannibalizing on the day voting. But what it is showing you, unlike 2016 or 2014, you're seeing a much higher level of Republican voters motivated to vote for Trump, where they weren't in the last two elections, I would say. Many Republican voters were just like, yeah, I'm just not that big into Trump. You know, the sort of the never Trumper types. I think that's gone for the most part. And those, you know, so yeah. So I see, and I'm not saying that Trump's going to win Virginia. I don't know well enough, but also I'm looking at huge lines of voters in New York City, and they ain't lining up to vote for Kamala. So what does that mean? Does that mean Trump? I think Trump's going to win New York City. No. Um, does that mean I think he's going to win New York State? No. But you know what I actually think it means? It's going to be closer than they anticipate in New York State. Because like AOC's district in New York City, you know, if all of the registered Republicans came out and voted for her Republican congressional opponent, he would win, just because there's so few Democrats. I mean, there's massive numbers of Democrats, but they don't bother to come and vote in her district. And if the Republicans there were motivated enough to come out and vote, they would, you know, take that seat away from her, at least temporarily. Then, of course, the Democrats would do a massive get out the vote campaign the next time, realizing that it's, you know, a problem. But they don't spend the money there because it's a safe seat. And so that's sort of what's going. You look at, you know, New York State outside of the New York metropolitan area is a very Republican area, but why would most come out and vote? Because their congressman, he's going to win anyway. So, and their town mayor or whoever who's a Republican is going to win anyway, and their state ain't going to go for a Republican, and their governor ain't going to be a Republican, and their senator ain't going to be a Republican, so there's no motivation to show up on the day to vote. But if you kill Peanut the squirrel and a few other things, now they're pissed off and they're going to vote. Just to show everybody that they're pissed off. And yeah, I know we're only talking about a few slim percent. It's not everybody, you know, marching to the polls. But that could be enough to make New York just uncomfortably close outcome, but still for the Democrats, I would say. So I understand a lot of people's frustration with the two-party system, in that, well, I like neither of them, so I'm not going to vote. Yeah, I don't like any of them at all. But, and, oh, who was it around? Oh, Riku. I don't like voting for the least bad choice. That's just stupid. Yeah, if you really have a third party candidate that you want to vote for, fine. But it's really more like in Europe, where you have the coalition governments. That's what we have here. We have coalition governments of Republicans and Democrats. So during the primaries, you vote for what factions in the coalition you want to support, like pro-life or pro-business or pro-defense. The Republicans are still pro-defense. They're not the anti-war party. They're the getting tired of all of the wars and nation buildings in the third world. They still want a strong army. They're not like defund the military. There's none of that sentiment that I can detect. Maybe defund the particular war somewhere, but not the military. So, so you get your coalition in senators and congressmen and whatnot, and then you work out who is going to be the president that's most likely to win, or just during the primary, or the president you like the most, and you vote for him in the primary, and then you accept that you didn't get who you wanted the most, but you got somebody who's going to be a lot better than the other guy. Well, I'm somehow paused and didn't get blown up by that. And so there is very good reason to get out and vote for the least crappy candidate. See people bullet tanks and change people, but no damage. No damage. And okay. I'm going to say this also. I hate the other guy is also not enough. I know I was just saying, hey, the least bad choice. But to really motivate people, you've got to give them a positive reason too. And I think Trump, with this coalition that he's been building of Elon Musk and RFK and others, that he is he's just motivated all of the libertarians to come out and vote for him. And this is, I have no idea of what's going on in the quote-unquote Libertarian Party and how they get that socialist leftist in as a candidate instead of somebody that was halfway serious for libertarian values. He's sort of a wacky dude, but that's sort of the libertarian. But the libertarian voters are now like all in for Trump. And that's something that the Republicans have never been able to do. And he's done it. and I know I'm still on the topic, but so I think Trump has quote unquote won the argument. Trump is going to win the election of those people who vote. But I think the ability for the Democrats to continue to find votes and such may be such that they can pull out a win. Well, we're not going to count the votes and be finished counting the votes in this state for another 6 days, and just continue to mess with things. So that right now, I think, is the only way the Democrats can win, is through games. Like in Nevada, I think the Supreme Court of the state of Nevada has said that they can count votes for like I don't know, it's like 4 days after the election that still come in, mail-in votes. And whether those votes are postmarked the day of the election or even after, they can still be counted. So if you find out that, oh my God, Trump's
Oh.
going to hey Jan, Trump's going to win Nevada. Well, they'll just hold the election open and muster up a bunch of people to send in votes if it's close enough,
Hmm.
and pump in enough votes, count enough votes to get Harris to win Nevada or something like that. I mean, so if they continue to play these games, yeah, the Democrats may be able to pull off a victory. But if you just take it from straight voting Republican, or Trump's got it. Are you going to be joining next mission?
No, I have to go soon, but I thought no one was joining you, so.
Yeah, been sort of all by myself mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Io here has been playing, but he's not in chat, in voice
I
chat.
see. Wait, he's in chat, but not in a voice call, you mean?
No, he's in the game,
Oh,
or
okay.
he had been. Oh no, he had canceled. He's actually left now. Yeah, I wasn't dropping down to a BR that he could play at. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm back down to being home. But did he probably say goodbye? You have to go. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, do you know about the New Yorker case, or where
The squirrel.
in New York there's a guy
The
who
squirrel.
got a squirrel and the
Yeah.
squirrel and the raccoon
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
That's.
it is you're technically breaking state law, but Jesus, with how many things that are going wrong in the UK, or not the UK, but in
Oh,
New
it's
York.
helping. It's helping Trump because it's showing um
Insanity?
the bureaucracy running rampant. Is how and why it's helping Trump.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that squirrels really like Trump, or Trump is really going to stop New York State from killing a squirrel, but it's this huge bureaucracy that we're all facing,
Yeah.
that everyone, you're not free. Bureaucracy is needed in a big country, but we're being dominated by it. Not just that it's there.
It is too grown.
Yes, and they're constantly making more regulations, which generally means something that they make up and not a law. The sort of a regulation is something like the Department of Energy makes up, where a law is something that Congress would pass, or whatever equivalent in states or
Hmm.
something like that. So There's been a move, though has yet to get approved through Congress, to state that
Oh, hello, Dana.
hey Dino, any regulations set up by whatever department must then be approved by Congress before they become into effect. So, with the idea that, well, these are the experts, the bureaucrats in whatever department. Okay, they may be the experts, but they may not understand how. Well, we're just protecting the worker, yes, but you're also making it impossible. Oh hell, impossible to um, conduct business.
Yeah.
So you need to get approval for your regulations from the or from the legislature. So and there's that sort of move that's being pushed.
Yeah. The podcast of the Loader Heaters put out a video like an hour ago. Yeah, an hour, like 20 minutes ago, that got over the neocon cycle. How like neocons get kicked out of the left, and then they don't change their minds, but they just start to preach their own positions and saying it on the conservative side, and then the conservative gives them a platform, and then they can put their own ideas into it.
Yeah, well, like I was saying, I think before you got here, at least the U.S. system, even though it appears two-party, is two coalition. It's a coalition of two groups, and so like big business back in the '80s and was in the coalition with the Democrats. I mean, with the Republicans. And you would think, oh well, the big business is conservative. No, it's not. It was aligned with the Republicans. Now it's aligned with the Democrats.
Allied with whomever supports their own interests.
Right, and right now the left is the party in America. We're talking because it can be different in different countries. The left is the party that supports mass immigration, which means cheap workers and consumers to sell to. So big business is pro the Democrats right now, not pro the Republicans, who want to do tariffs and who want to limit
big business.
But limit incoming workers. So that means wages go up, because where I am now, up in my secret mountain base, almost every business I take note of has a help wanted sign. I go to the local pizza place and pull. It's going to be 40 minutes to get a pizza because we're swamped with orders and there's nobody here. I mean, there's like two people trying to work the thing, and they shut down early and they open later than their stated hours because they don't have employees who employ to keep the business going. And I went to the local tax prepared place to see about getting my taxes dealt with, just because all this change is going on with me. And they're closed half the week, and they have a help wanted for full and part-time
employees.
Yeah, and so this is both, making pizzas and preparing tax statements and whatnot. So it's multiple levels of, hey, we need somebody to work here. Now, I'm not in a place of looking for a job, but if I was, I could get a job in half an hour. Because even if the pizza place thinks I'm overqualified, hell, if I'm work a week or two and they can get a new job, they'll be happy for the employee for a week or two. And this is not
you can ask for higher wages for
the
job.
Well, whether they will give me higher wages, maybe not, because change and other things. But I could ask for them, and I could look for a job that could pay me better, because that's an enemy tank. Let's shoot it. And so that's driving wages up because yes, trust me, if not in a practical sense, they can't pay me enough to make pizza, but and still make a profit selling pizza and all. But in theory, yeah, if they would pay me enough, I'll make pizzas. Even now, even with all this other stuff, $500 an hour or something. Yeah, I'll make pizzas. It's not such a terrible job. It's
Can I come over then?
But the so, and that's just sort of an overstatement, not really how it sort of works, but in a sense it does. So we have, like I said, we have these coalitions, and the unions have, to a large extent, I would say, have got what they wanted. So they've been losing power, and they are leftist dominated and such. So, and they've destroyed so many cities. The big unions have. The auto industrial center of the sort of northeast of America has died because of unions, and all of it. Auto production has moved to the south, where the unions have no power.
Detroit is like
it's ghost city, so they've destroyed it. So the unions are no longer supporting the benefit of their members, because some of the major unions voted overwhelmingly the mass membership to support Trump, and the management has come out and decided not to endorse either candidate, because the membership or the management are socialist to communists, and what
because they think
well they're ideologically socialist and communist, but what they are supporting now is because they realize that their traditional membership base is at best frozen, at worst shrinking. So they are pro-immigration because they're hoping those people will become part of their union. So, which hurts their union members. Because if you looked at the unions back in the 70s, they were anti-immigration because it lowered wages, and they were pushing for the American working class. And anti-automation, absolutely. That's you saw with the longshoremen's union on the east and Gulf Coast fighting vehemently against automation, which is going to come. I mean, you can slow it down by 10 years or something, but it's going to come. And some of the ports, because I listened to one of the shipping channel, some of the ports may not overly change much by automation just because they're sort of smaller and whatnot, but some of the bigger ports will shift, over time, and so they need to constantly move. Okay, folks. What does Gamer think? Okay, see you, Jan. What does Gamer think of House races, California swing district, Central Valley, Duarte? Okay, well, I have not been paying attention to those because I'm not voting in California anymore. But if you look at a map of California, there are a bunch of solidly red districts that will always vote Republican. And there are some swing districts, including in Orange County, that generally vote Republican. And if you're looking at each district, you've got to really know the district. Most of where you will find a swing district, it's a white and Hispanic region, and Because if it's a significant black population, it's just going to be a Democrat district. They have long. California used to be a Republican state that would periodically get Democrats in power. It wasn't until the flood of illegal immigrants into California that pushed it to be a one-party Democrat state. So, is California savable? At this point, no. It's so yeah. I don't know. And like I was saying, politics in America is coalition. So the Jews in America are generally an urban population, meaning you don't go out in the countryside and find lots of them. They're not ranchers or farmers, and when they retire, they retire to someplace like Florida, not to a house out in Wyoming. I'm just not that it needs to be a ranch or any sort of active thing. So they are urbanite, and they have generally because their experience is and including into America in the urban areas are with Catholic. This was an interesting a conservative Jewish rabbi, conservative, probably also conservative religious wise, but conservative voting, was talking to his Jewish friends, and they're talking about all of the Christian anti-Semitism, and basically he said to them, "You don't know any Christians, do you? Hardly. I mean, not so much as in people like a lot of Americans who are just nominally Christian. I mean, Christian as in really believing and going to church and etc. Just as opposed to nominal Christians." Because, and he sort of explained this conversation to them. You're thinking of old Europe, and you're thinking of Catholic Europe, where you had the pogroms, and because there has never been a Protestant pogrom against Jews. The Protestants are not anti-Semitic, and most of
there I would actually disagree with.
Well, okay, and we
at
can
least,
come back.
At least within a European context.
Well,
I'm not sure about like American Protestants.
Okay,
I do know.
Well, okay, American Protestants are different, but a lot of our evangelical Protestants have a viewpoint that definitely supports Zionism, and there is, and I don't want to go too deep into this, there is definitely an American Protestant, not so much religion, but American Protestantism, the sort of us and not us that you find everywhere. But it's I really it's just not like you find it to the degrees that you see it in Catholicism, and I don't know exactly, and we can come back to it, but it's really, there has been no pogrom that's been Protestant against, in Europe or America, against Jews. They are not any moves to segregate Jews out. You find Jews in the Netherlands getting refuge from, I'm talking mostly, back, when the Dutch were fighting off the Spanish, and that, those eras. You find the Jews there. So they, they are sort of the other, if you will, but they're, as opposed to the us, but they're not the bad people, if you will. So, okay, but to get on to the point is, so they have naturally, it's, the overwhelming Jewish population in America, I would say, are nominal Jews, not, Orthodox Jews or conservative Jews, not religious or conservative politically, but they are, that. So they voted overwhelmingly with Democrats because that's who they were generally around as a population here in America. Well, with the change here that the Democrats have fully embraced basically everything and anything anti-Western, which includes any and all Muslim population. So your coalition of Muslims and Jews is just incompatible with the radicalization that we're seeing in those communities. So we're not going to see, you're just not going to continue to see Democrat support for Israel, and you're going to see that it's becoming clear to everyone that anti-Zionism is just code word for anti-Jewish, because yes, the Arab or Muslim populations here in America are anti, Israel, but they're also anti-Jew here. So that's breaking up the Jewish Democrat alliance, and you find some of the most top people in the Democratic Party, like Chuck Schumer, being a Jew and deeply embedded in his community, but once he retires out because of age, he isn't going to be replaced with another Jewish senator or congressman coming up. And we also see we've always seen a very anti-Jewish black population here in America as well. I sent you an invite, Gina.
Thanks.
And so
Accepted.
that's going to take,
4-3?
4-3 if you can, yeah.
Good. Let's see if I have something already or if I need to switch a few things around.
And so that's changing that coalition, and you get people that are, the conservative right definitely has the faction of conservative Christians. They have traditionally in America have been Protestants, which again are not in any real sense anti-Semitic. Again, and so, and when I say that, they are definitely, the Jews are definitely the other compared to, and so are the Chinese, and so are the Italians, and so are the Russians, because they're not, white Protestants, whether they're Anglo or other Protestants, but they're not like some group to be excluded either. So, that, and so if you're really sensitive about things, yes, you might, you might see the sort of us versus them elements as being anti, but as opposed to we're just pro us. Now, the conservative Catholic element in America has grown, and they have moved to the Republicans because of abortion. So where they had traditionally been Democrat, because abortion was not, until really sort of the 80s or the 90s, and that abortion starts really becoming a Republican versus Democrat issue. So we're seeing and it's going to take a while for these different factions to work out. Just notice whether women are turning out higher rate than usual because of abortion. They're trying to get the women to turn out over abortion. They are making statements like saying that Trump is going to ban your birth control. And I don't know whether that is just code for abortion or whether they actually think, because there are, like I was just saying, there is moving into the Republican ranks, radically conservative Catholics who are anti any birth control. Now, they are never going to be a large enough group to ever get prophylactic, meaning, stopping insemination from happening, banned, whether it's the pill or condoms or anything like that. That's some radical Catholic pipe dream. And then they're also saying Trump's going to ban abortion. Well, Trump has never, ever, ever said that he's ever going to ban any abortion anywhere. He's never said that. He's never said that he's for. In fact, he said, I will veto any law that comes up that bans abortion. All he has said is Roe versus Wade, meaning federal court protection for abortions, is a bad thing, and I will appoint judges who will rule against it, which he did. So now, and so he will not support a national abortion ban. And so if a woman is actually paying attention, which may or may not be the case, because a lot of people, not just women, a lot of people, men and women, don't pay attention to politics much. So they may hear.
I am actually remember something from this. Is I do at least online, sometimes in very left-wing circles, largely due to the fact that there is something I enjoy and which is enjoyed by a lot of very left-wing people. So I generally don't talk about politics there whatsoever, but I of course see a lot of political things that they talk about. And
Right.
when the whole repealing of Roe v. Wade happened, it was literally like it was the end of the world, like Armageddon. Like
Right.
they were literally like you had the people there panicking, like as if like SS death squads were going to like come around and shoot you if you like use protection or something like that.
Right.
It was insane.
Yeah, and this is the propaganda that the left is using. So, and Trump has made statements which I think he is repeating from some previous pro-life people saying it should be up to the state. Well, what they really believe is they want to ban abortion, but they know they can get it banned in some states. But Trump, I do believe, will not support any abortion ban laws, and he just says it should be up to the states. So if Alabama wants to ban abortion. Well, Alabama can ban abortion. And how many hours? 3, 4, 5 hours one way, and you're out of the state of Alabama, and you can get your abortion. Now if all the states around Alabama also ban abortion, well, then that's a bit of a problem. But still, the idea is that it's being left up to the state. And I know that from where I'm now, my secret mountain base, which I will say it is in the state of Arizona. Beyond that, I don't want to say. That they're running commercials against the woman who's running for Senate because she is, by her own statements, very anti-abortion. Okay, well, I don't know how that's that big a deal, because the senator doesn't really. I mean, they may have voice from their platform, but unless they're passing a law in the Senate. But of course, Trump's just said he's going to veto any law that's passed in the Senate, and there won't be enough Republicans to overrule his veto, because obviously the Democrats will support it. So, it's an issue. Now, if she was governor or running for governor, it would be an issue because it would be up to the states. So, yeah, I think the abortion, and there were also a lot of disingenuous Republicans that liked the abortion issue because it was a motivating factor for people to come and vote for them. You may be a lefty in every other aspect, but you believe abortion is murder, so you're going to vote for the scummiest Republican person out there so long as he says he is anti-abortion. But, well, of course, I can't do anything about it because, we can't do anything about it. But vote for me anyways as an issue. But since they've, through the courts, got Roe v. Wade overturned as a legal precedent, which only said that you can't ban it. Now, doesn't mean that you have to ban it. It just says so you can ban abortion, but you don't have to if you can,
Really, like from an outsider's perspective, it seems
Sure.
more of an issue between federalism and centralism.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Now, if you truly believe abortion is murder, well, then you believe it should be banned everywhere, just because you don't want to say, oh, hey, yeah, in this state you can murder people, in another state you can't. So I understand why the pro-life people have the views they do. But it's definitely a federal, like you say, a federal issue versus a state versus national issue. And a lot of people don't realize, don't think this deeply. So, I think the abortion issue is becoming, as a national situation, is becoming less and less an issue.
I mean, the main thing is that it's a thing that you can very easily, for both sides of the discourse here, very easily make very, very emotional. Like, look, they are murdering the unborns, or look, they want to take away your power over your own body, like
right, yes,
something like that,
mm-hmm.
And that makes a lot of people like heated and emotional, and then you can make them more easily vote for you, I suppose.
Yes, but if you take this away from, if you're no longer able to protect the Roe versus Wade, meaning it's no longer an issue, because yes, in theory, the Democrats can get into power or stay in power and appoint judges that are going to support, you know, are going to make it illegal to ban abortions in one fashion or another. But, you know, that's in theory. But in practice, it ain't happening anytime soon. And I just don't see the you know, they're doing right now, I think, in Washington, D.C., or did a few hours ago, a big pro-abortion rally in which there were mostly women, a bunch of women drummers out there. And I find it really weird that they're this motivated to kill babies. You know, I'm not a big abortion person at all, you know, on either side, but it just, I don't know.
I mean,
It just, it
I mean,
just,
there are some people, but those are like your weird, gross TikTok nonsense people, and who are like a minuscule part of the population. Most, so it's just like a thing.
yeah, you know, but it just seems sort of gross the way that they are pushing for abortions. It's not, and it used to be, because the Clinton was, um, oh, something about rare and whatever. But now the Democrat position is abortion up to and literally after birth. So if a baby's born and it's too deformed, they just get to kill it. That is the like official position.
Yeah,
And
that reminds me a bit of like this weird stuff they have going on in Canada, where they are literally like pressuring people to kill themselves.
yes,
And
and
this seems like the logical endpoint of this whole thing.
yes, and it's just, you know, it's not. It used to be the idea of it's pro-choice as opposed to anti-choice, where it's become pro-abortion, and so and they're getting out and celebrating all their abortions and the, you know, in the big mass um, party type atmosphere. And well, I could just say, and it's,
I
but
think that I think that's a bit of part of like this cult of the self. I would almost call it, where
yeah. Well, also, I would sort of almost, and I may get this wrong, but it almost looks like a Dionysus, you know, forest party or whatever, if you know what I mean. That the women would go,
a bacchanalia.
yeah,
Thing.
but you know, woman only kind of, let's go get naked and dance in the forest
Well,
and
as long as they don't like cut people into pieces, then we're still fine.
well, yeah, I'm not saying they don't have the right to do it, you know, but I'm just saying but what they're but what they're celebrating is cutting babies into pieces.
Yes, that is
So
that is yeah, that's a
see,
point.
that's the point. If it was just, oh, hey, let's get out and party because it's Saturday, or it's, you know, the
Which is actually somewhat interesting, as like Dionysus was like cut into pieces, but then like remade and reborn, which is
well,
like
yeah, and I don't know a lot about the you know, the actual ancient cult, but it just sort of reminds me of that. And it's not just like, hey, the week's over, let's have a party, everybody, you know, and this is just for the women. Okay, fine, you know, just women want to go have a party. You know, I have no, you know, real objection to it at all. Um, but it's just like I say, it's sort of gross.
I mean, the original. I mean, just
yeah,
like a very short thing. Like the original cult likely was originally like a kind of wine cult, because wine makes you intoxicated, and they believe that pretty much by intoxicating yourself, you gain like in touch with a higher power, which later got some like death and rebirth
right.
elements to it. That's pretty much what little I know of it. It's a mystery cult, so there is not much
Oh yeah,
information on it.
oh yeah. That is a also a true thing. Mystery cults, and I also have to wonder how central or was a mystery cult always celebrated the same because it was mysterious, and somebody an initiate who is halfway up the cult chain then moves to another area and starts another thing that may have a variance from the original, if you know what I mean. Just
Yeah, I know.
okay, but all of these women at this March for Abortion or whatever it was called, but functionally that's what it was. They weren't going to vote for Trump anyways, okay, and they were already motivated to come out and vote for the Democrat. So that is having no impact really on who's winning or losing the election. That's just they're already, left wing and doing their thing. And I don't think that is moving the needle of, the 5 or 10% that are, changeable at this point. And what did folks say? Dionysus follows mediads would go on a rampage tearing animals and people to pieces. Yes.
So that is largely mythological, at least the people part.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Largely, but
yeah, well, yeah,
probably did happen sometimes.
Yeah, how do I put this? We have lost so much knowledge of the ancient world that it's incredible how much we've lost. So I'm in no way saying that I know or one side is more correct or another in this. I don't know, but so you have so in American elections, there's two elements that decide anything that's close. Because if you go to Oklahoma, the Republicans are winning. It's just how conservative are those Republicans going to be from their primary? It's not. Is there a Democrat going to? Now you can, if you find an urban center there, sure they may have some Democrats, but they aren't. They're not anywhere near controlling the state. But so that's a foregone conclusion. Oh shit! Got my transmission. That's a foregone conclusion. But so where there is a possibility of a shift, it's two factors. One factor is voter turnout, is getting people to actually get out and vote. The other factor is the somewhere between 5 and 10% that have a changeable position that you can convince to go one side or the other. And that's all that the elections are ever really, if you really understand American politics, are ever about. So if you can get the turnout and you can get the persuadable middle or whatever you want to call it, then you win. Hello, Harry Knoxall. How are you doing? As a World War II reenactor, I read a lot of history. I can see the dangers of parallels between Trump and World War II Germany. Okay. Henry, can you give me the country you're from? That will really help me understand you a little bit better, so I can speak with a little more knowledge. USA. Okay. Well, how do I put this? If you think Abraham Lincoln was a dictator, and something like Adolf Hitler, and had the same dangers of World War II Germany, then you're right. Okay? If you think freedom and reducing of government control is going to give you World War II Germany, which is the opposite. Because if you look at the party platforms, the Democrat Party is so much more like Hitler's than the Republicans. So, because you're talking Freedom Party versus Authoritarian Party.
I think the main reason people are with this whole Trump is like the new mustache man.
Yes.
Is because he's a populist who is good at making like speeches and riling up crowds. That's largely it, I'd say.
But like Mustache Man wanted to conquer other countries, and Trump is saying, "Get America out of all wars." Trump is saying, I'm going to now. He has now stated, or basically, that he's going to in some way have Ron Paul as part of his government, and Ron Paul has accepted. And so, if you know who Ron Paul is,
I don't.
Okay, he was a congressman from Texas for a long time, and the father of Rand Paul, the senator from Tennessee. But he is, I don't think he's still practicing, but was a doctor, and his nickname in Congress was Doctor No, because whenever will you support this law? No. He was always, just about virtually always, a no vote, because he would never vote for the budget, because he would never agree to the budget. He is basically the true extreme libertarian that was in Congress. So he is Mr. Freedom, Mr. No Government. He would put us back to the government of, I don't know, 1880 here in America. So now you're bringing in a guy who will slash government. You're bringing in the one of the flag bearers of the Democratic Party, the Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's looking nothing, in my opinion, like Germany, either in an expansionistic, taking over other countries. I'm trying to think what it might be. Okay, maybe we could see the get rid of the foreigner aspect. And we're talking about non-citizens here. But you have never heard Trump in any way, shape, or form talk about being anti any ethnic group. Only being anti immigration on one element or another, whether it's illegal or maybe just slowing down immigration. You will find that, he's anti-Chinese or anti-China, and it's not the people, it's the government.
In that case, I'm a super racist because I bloody hate the Chinese government.
And Trump has long, 20, 30 years ago, has been anti-China government, not anti-Chinese, Americans. It doesn't even enter his, when he's talking like this, it doesn't even enter his consciousness, the shape of somebody's eyes or skin tone. It's the Chinese government that he's anti. So, but he is definitely, anti, illegal immigration. I don't want to put too much words in his mouth, but he's definitely anti-illegal immigration and whatnot. But
where are they?
And so and for him, because if you look Trump, at his heart, is still an old school New York Democrat, which is pro-American worker. Okay, that it has very much a pro-American worker sentiment, not just workers or not just people all being equal wherever. No, it's American first, America now, not you know, doesn't care about the worker in Honduras or some other place. It's how does this affect American workers or American people? And so, will Trump try to round people up? Yes, he deport them. And will they go into camps? Only if you can't immediately put them on an airplane to send them home. Meaning, if some court says, well, you have to adjudicate them to make sure that they're not here legally and go through a process. Well, that means that okay, you have to detain them in a location. You just can't let them roam around America. So he'll only put anybody into a camp or some sort of detention facility if he can't immediately put them on an airplane sending them home. So I guess in that sense, anti-foreign, but it's not. In Trump's case, as far as I can detect, anything to do with skin color, eye color, it's just not. It's just the non-American. And as you can, when you say that, it's a, it's not a racial group when you say American. You can define, American, Anglo-Americans or Mexican Americans or whatever. You can certainly define an ethnic group within America, but not when you say Americans, or at least not a traditional ethnic group. And so I study, Henry, if you don't know, from my YouTube channel, the National Socialist regime in great detail. This is why, unlike a lot of Americans, I very much still support American support for Ukraine, because I see Putin's expansionism a threat like Hitler's expansionism. And I know there's the recent, oh my God, Hitler went to Madison Square Gardens and held a big rally, just like the German American Bund did in 1938 or whatever the year was. Well, so did Bill Clinton.
Not Bill Clinton.
Yeah, so it's just that it's the big New York rally, or one of them, hall to go do, and for like if you're a New York musician or whatever, yeah, go to play Madison Square Garden is like the pinnacle of local success, the biggest genre place or whatever to go see a concert at. Yeah, but
I mean, at that point, we are with the whole thing. You like chocolate? So did Hitler. You like
yes,
dogs? So did Hitler.
Right, and I mean, and that's the ridiculousness that the left has been putting out. And sure,
Wait, aren't a lot of leftists like vegetarians? Because Hitler was a vegetarian near the end of his life.
Well, even I think from my reading, when Gelly died, or whatever her name was, he becomes a vegetarian at that point. But and that was, well, I guess second half of his life. But yeah, though he supposedly cheated on a few dishes that weren't entirely vegetarian, even up to the end. Yeah, and Trump is definitely a meat eater. So,
well, that's good. Then we know he's definitely not Hitler.
Yeah. And where Trump might act with presidential authority and where he's talked about acting with presidential authority. And also you got to understand another thing about Trump. Trump doesn't know all the laws, okay? So he'll often say, I want to fire this person. Oh, and somebody come up, Mr. President, you can't fire him. Oh, okay. It's meaning he just speaks before he knows what he can legally do. He never illegally did anything while he was president, like trying to fire a federal judge or something that the president cannot do. He might have wanted to fire judges that disagreed with him, but he didn't because he can't. And so he makes statements of what he would desire to do, and then finds out, I can't do that because it's not allowed. Oh, okay. So you have some of that, but what he wants to, seemingly from all of his statements that he wants to do is, as much as he can with presidential power, is shut down the government. Like, there was somebody, I think it was Tim Pool, if you know who he is, went over one of the Democrats' little videos of people saying things about what Trump or whatever supports or doesn't, and tearing it apart. One of it was saying, he wants to put his cronies in charge of the Department of Education to somehow, change, I forget what their exact statement was about education. And he said, and what Trump said, no, he doesn't. Trump isn't going to put his cronies in charge of the Department of Education. He's going to, get rid of the Department of Education. So yes, temporarily there may be a Trump appointee in charge of the Department of Education, but he wants to just get rid of the federal, not the state, each state's Department of Education, but the federal Department of Education. So yeah, he may try to, if he can, with presidential authority, shut down the Department of Education. Whether he'll need congressional approval, he probably will, so it probably won't happen, but he will try to. And this is what pisses people off here in America, is they believe something like, the president says he's going to get rid of the Department of Education. Well, that was authorized and funded via the Congress, so the president cannot get rid of the Department of Education. He can ask Congress to abolish it. You just take a simple vote, to repeal the statutes that made that set up the Department of Education in the first place. Just repeal those. It can be as simple as that, and then the Department of Education goes away. But the president cannot get rid of the Department of Education. And so when he says he wants to do it, people vote either for or against that. But when he doesn't do it, then people, you betrayed us. Well, yeah, because the American system is set up to have multi-layers and to make it hard to either set up the Department of Education or get rid of it. So that if you succeed in getting rid of it under this president, the next president can't just bring it back. It will take, acts of Congress to bring it back. And if you can tell, I'm voting for Trump. I did not vote for Trump the first time. I voted for him the second time.
Well, you know what they say, aller guten Dinge sind drei, which means all good things are like three. Doesn't really exist in English, I suppose.
All good things are three?
Yeah, it's like a German, third time's the charm. It's the German equivalent of third time's the charm.
Okay.
I just didn't have the English one, so I had the German.
Yeah. Yes.
In German, it's all good things are three.
Okay. I can see where you can get that, yes. You've tried twice and you now have enough experience, and the third time you'll be able to do it. Because that's normally third time's the charm. Will be understood as such.
We won!
Yay.
It was a good match.
I just I'm just worried about what's going to happen after this election. It's not going to be good. Well, they got Dino.
Yep. It came out of the shadows.
Oh, and they got me. Where did they get me? Straight ahead? I was looking over to the side. Okay, well. With my sneak up to them and shoot them in the face strategy, let's see if we can get back and snipe them. That took me.
Alright, apparently the Americans are now copying the Japanese.
Yeah. I would make it a big penalty to suicide your aircraft, but so are the Germans. They've just suicided their aircraft as well.
I mean, that has at least some historical precedent. Though not with a BF 110. Those things are expensive.
Yeah, they have 2 engines. one thing I was thinking about, sort of in regards to World War II, and a bit to World War One, but also regarding Putin and his latest, wars and whatnot, is winning and losing a war via diplomacy. Where did I get shot from? Oh, I see.
Oh dear, I'm dead.
Oh, damn, and somebody else shot me. In setting up a conflict situation, a war, and winning or losing it by the numbers and types of allies you get. I think that that's something that isn't maybe looked at much. We look at, campaigns and battles and tanks and generals and all of that. But, World War One, that was roughly two evenly balanced power groups fighting it until one side was able to bring in the third power group, being the U.S., in truly actively into their side.
I would say that World War One was unbalanced from the beginning, but
Well,
yeah, it was what the entry of the U.S. that the already heavily in favor of the Entente attracted even more so.
Well, okay. Now, in a way, yes, I will agree with you, but how do I put this? Britain and France's greater outside powers is very tenuous. Okay, if Britain withdraws all of its forces, including its collaborationist forces, from India, they immediately lose India. If they have a serious problem of persuading, particularly Australians, but I'd also say Canadians, to enter into a European war, that the people in those places might be very happy to, quote unquote, defend the homeland, like if Britain was being invaded, their sort of ancestral homeland. But what the hell does some struggle in the center of Europe have to do with Australia? And so yes, Britain is strong in that it has Australia as part of its empire, but it's not a locked in, guaranteed element to the empire, I would say. And the French colonial structure is also fairly weak, that if it withdraws too much of its...
I wasn't necessarily talking about colonies, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and so, so yeah, and partially I would say, how brittle Russia turned out to be. It collapsed from an internal crisis brought on by the war, exacerbate the problems within Russia, most assuredly, but it was an internal collapse. But we can see, prior to the outbreak of the Second World War, Hitler is not really, I got him, focusing on gaining allies. He's worried about Italy in regards to Austria, because Italy in 1936 sets up the Three Powers Pact of Italy, Austria, and Hungary as an anti-Hitler pact to, to block Hitler's move to the south, because Mussolini is afraid of losing territories that he's recently gained in World War One that are ethnically German, and just also having a major power right on his border, even if it isn't particularly expansionistic to him, and so it would be better to fight the war with Germany inside of Austria as opposed to in Italian territory. But so Hitler's courting Mussolini mostly to get permission to get Austria, and he does so. And then he's courting the Soviet Union mostly to get permission to get Poland, not really to build an alliance.
That actually reminds me of an anecdote I once
Sure.
read about the whole Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and the partition of Poland, because the initial, like very early before it had even happened, like while they were negotiating things, plan of the German leadership was not actually to create the general government, but to create like a small rump Polish puppet state. And the reason that never happened, and while this whole idea of completely destroying the Polish nation and integrating the whole thing into the greater Germany happened, was because the Soviets did not want a Polish state to remain, which could then possibly in the future be used to justify a attack on them to like regain Polish territory for this German puppet state.
Yeah, that's very interesting. There was a brief attempt at the conclusion of the Polish campaign to establish a Polish rump state by the Germans, but it was quickly, before it was set up, it was quickly determined that the Allies weren't going to buy it, meaning it wasn't going to be enough to get them to, sign up peace or some sort of, end hostilities, however you want to say that. So they then moved it from being what was going to be sort of maybe a Polish rump state. And I don't know, and it was, I think this was from the book Hitler's Compromises that talked about this, and it was more of an idea that was floated than any sort of like oh, this guy's going to be the president or whatever, of this Polish rump state. So that there was still even a thinking post Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact of the idea of it. But in the early stages prior to the invasion of Poland, the Soviet Union was going to get a lot more of Poland than they ended up getting.
Though to be fair, at that point, Germany was also supposed to get all of Lithuania.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where I was exactly going to go. Is that Germany was going to get Lithuania, but Germany successfully gets deeper into Poland than anticipated, and I don't know the thinking of why they wanted to. I've never heard any sort of satisfactory why they wanted to do that swap. Why they wanted to, in the first place, Lithuania as being a German puppet state or whatever.
I think that might have had something to do with Lithuania being, at least in the early 20th century, fairly close to Germany, but like also somewhat culturally, where you had things where you like anecdotes where you have like Lithuanians like even like straight up not being completely opposed even to the idea in like World War I of becoming like a state within the German Empire.
Right.
So it might be that it's like some kind of idea harkening back to that, but then again, the Nazis actually viewed the Lithuanians out of the like three Baltic peoples, like the Lithuanians, Estonians, and Latvians, as like the least Aryanized, if you will.
Right.
So there's against it then. So
I get the idea that obviously Lithuania geographically is the closest, of the Baltic state. So why they would, but I don't know if it was just pure diplomacy, like, okay, well, you get Finland, Estonia, and Latvia. We'll take Lithuania. Well, we'll probably, they may be thinking, well, we're only going to be able to conquer, I don't know what you want to call it, Western Poland. So, okay, all the rest of the Eastern Poland you get, and you get, Bessarabia down in Romania. And so, yeah, and then when they did have the success, did they just, oh, this is better territory? Because I could see the argument of, well, the plan next is, of course, to invade the Soviet Union, um, which well, no, I think the plan next was to go to war with France after it, but because they didn't think France was going to jump into the um, defending Poland. So I just don't have the any real. I've never really read any real thought on why what was decided there, and what was going to be better about having that bit of Poland versus Lithuania. I mean, do you know of anything that in the parts of Poland that they traded for? Was there something industrially or something like that more so there than
Not really,
Lithuania?
but the main thing is that the new border follows it follows largely the Bug River,
Right.
which, and now this is just a vague idea, is that they might have chosen it as it's possibly more defensible, and it also heavily shortens a possible front against the Soviets. If you have like
Well, yeah.
Lithuania, then you have like a
If you're
very
worried about this, yeah, I could see what you're just saying, because if you're worried about the Soviets jumping into your coming war, because obviously they're at war with France, but you're coming like invasion of France. When your army is fighting in the outskirts of Paris, and you're worried about a Soviet stab in the back. I could see that as being more important territory than Lithuania. I can see that. That would be a good reason.
Yeah, that's main like idea here, because I've just pulled up a map of the original partition plan,
Right?
and the proposed border is way longer,
Yes, it is.
and especially with a especially noticeable weak point, in at East Prussia, around the Masurian lakes, where you could pretty much fairly quickly a successful offensive would reach the Baltic coast quite quickly, and then all of East Prussia and Lithuania would be completely cut off, and they would then move straight into into central Poland. Whereas with the actual partition borders, you have a much smaller front line with less with like that weakness is still there, but now it would just cut East Prussia in half instead of also completely cutting off Lithuania, and the front line is at the Bug River instead of being at the Vistula, which also moves Warsaw behind the line, whereas
as
previously
opposed to
it would
on
have
the
been a
line.
frontline city.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
And another reason why this might have change also might have happened is that the Germans initially believed or thought that the Soviets would pretty much immediately invade right after them, like a day or so after the German attack.
Right.
And where you actually have Ribbentrop panicking shortly after the invasion and doing frantic telegrams with Moscow, because he's terrified that the Russians might have gone back on their word.
Right. Oh yeah, the Germans, well, Hitler, I should say, is more worried about the Soviet Union than they're worried about the Western powers at that stage of the war. They think it. My interpretation of Hitler's mindset at that point is somewhere between they don't have the stomach for war again, so they're not going to do anything. If they do something, and especially looking at the French, seeing how divided their nation is, it's going to be impotent anyway. And he only had respect for the British, but the British are a sea power, and without vigorous French buy-in to whatever's happening, it's going to be ineffective.
Yeah. That's actually also something interesting, as you were talking about allies, and how Hitler didn't really seem to try to really make allies all that much.
Mm-hmm.
Is that from what I understand, Hitler, of course, had a humongous superiority complex in the sense of we don't need allies. We have satellites and so on, to whom we then dictate and whom we establish by the force of our military might and
Right.
economic dominance. The only power Hitler actually wanted an alliance with, and the only power who Hitler considered on a semi-equal level to Germany, would have been Britain.
Mm-hmm.
As Hitler had this dream of pretty much dominating Europe, but Europe with then Britain as the
Dominating the world, the external world.
dominating the world and the oceans, bringing
Yeah.
the area, exporting the Aryan ways to Africa and Asia and so on.
Right. Yeah. And getting back to sort of, because I see much more the dangers between Putin and World War II Germany parallels, because we don't see Putin developing any real allies. He is acting entirely on his own, and don't even try to say China is some sort of ally. It's not.
Yeah, China's is an ally to Putin the same way as Stalin was an ally to Hitler.
Right. I mean, at whatever point in time, on whatever issue it is convenient for them to be allied upon, I'm saying Putin and China, they will do so, and may stay allied on that point, but conflict on a different point of whatever international, or trade or whatever. So it is purely a convenient of the moment alliance, and nothing like big defensive. Meaning, if the U.S. or NATO or whatever was going to send armored divisions to Moscow, kind of go, whatever. They wouldn't be.
I'd say at that point China might just go, Vladivostok's sure nice this time of year.
Right, exactly, and that might be, and that they might do a strategic reassessment of, okay, Taiwan can wait. We can get Vladivostok and shore that up for a generation.
Korea.
Yeah, and store that up for a generation, and then look at Taiwan later. Yeah, so it's in no way a strong defensive counterbalance to NATO or any sort of concept, because NATO is definitely a military alliance, but there's also a huge cultural alliance, if you will, the Western Order, or however you want to say, both or economically, diplomatically, culturally, socially, all that kind of stuff is going on within the NATO alliance. It's not just a pure defensive mechanic of some sort.
The government here in Germany, like the government media likes to call it, the liberal democratic world order.
Yes, that kind of, but it's world order in a diplomatic form, absolutely. But it's also how many Americans have gone to university in Germany and how many Germans have gone to university in America over the years. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff has been going on, is going on, that makes it, like I say, cultural and social and that we interact with each other as such, where you don't see a lot of Chinese going to to Russian universities, or vice versa. And so neither of them cares if either's capital is obliterated from the planet. Oh, hello. I got one of you. See if I can get this guy before he can do something to me. And I did. Yay. 2 down. And so it's got me to thinking, if when we're talking about, shall we say, a full or global world, so not a world that is the whole world is part of the world, if you know what I mean. There isn't just China matters, Indonesia matters, everywhere matters, not just Europe or for power conflicts or whatever, if you know what I mean. It's a globally based equation for every power out there. If you're going to become expansionistic, what sort of alliance situation do you need to create to be able to be expansionistic? Because I could see if, say, the U.S. decided to become expansionistic, that the global order going no. Like if you're actually worried that Trump is going to, well, my first step is to invade Canada, 3 weeks after being elected, and then once that's secure,
the entire world applauds the downfall of Trudeau.
Well, I mean, that might actually be the case, but then starts making pressure towards some Caribbean states because they're going to easily fall, and his rhetoric is, after all that's done, it's going to be Mexico next, and we're also we're putting a puppet back into the Philippines, and if America is looking like it's going to truly be a center of a one world global empire, and not just sort of a like we sort of kind of are. I know we are in that, but it's sort of a global empire of a certain
empire.
But it's also with a certain amount of consent of the various nations that okay, U.S. you're the big guy. We're sort of following along, so long as so long as we're consenting to go alongside you, we're with you. Otherwise, no. But if it's actually, we're actually, installing people in government and taking over things, and so the whole world goes, oh shit, we got to oppose America. Well, if we take nuclear weapons off the table, I still don't see the world conquering America, but I could see the world keeping America tied up in America, if you know what I mean. Not driving us out of Europe, driving us out of Asia, driving us out of Africa, that kind of stuff. I could see that happening, as a real thing. And so, if America, like America versus the world, I would see that as a likely defeat. So how should a Putin who believes he needs to expand his territory, how does he build alliances? What has he forgotten to do, if you know what I mean? How do you do that in this sort of modern world? Or is it just impossible?
The main thing, I'd say it's not completely impossible, but it's very, very difficult.
You have to not just like we were saying, not just alliances of particular things of the moment. You have to have real buy-in, like we had during the Cold War. With the Western powers versus the Warsaw Pact. The Soviets, to one degree or another, were able to get the buy-in of the Warsaw Pact, and the U.S. was able to get the buy-in of NATO to stand against them. So, what do you offer? Like let's just say, France, for whatever reasons, and maybe more than one, but decides that it needs to, not just de facto has sort of been the way, but de jure reacquire its African territories to protect the environment, keep the Russians out, to help France's economy, to move the non-ethnically French populations into territories controlled by France as a intermediate puppet people. Whatever the reasons are, how do they convince everybody else that this is actually, they're going to be flying the French flag there, and France is going to actually directly administer the regions, kind of thing. How do they get Europe, Germany, America, China? Well, maybe not China, because China would maybe be the opposition party along with Russia. But how do they get the buy-in of Japan, say, and Australia, for an expansionist brand? How does that happen? And what do you offer? Do you go after the people, or do you go after the government? Meaning, do you propagandize the world and go, "Hey, we're just here to do it for the environment. It's the environment." So the peoples of the various nations agree that it's for the environment. So it's a good conquest. So that the governments don't oppose it, in any significant way, like embargoes, let alone fighting. Or do you appeal to the national power interests of the government, saying, "Well, hey, we're blocking the Russian expansion or the Chinese expansion into Africa"?
Realistically, you'd probably do both if you really wanted to. Probably try to do both.
Right. Because, see, I see the world changing. And I think the idea of the current status quo is slowly and then rapidly will disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether, or what the nation state, the powerful nation state, and it'll be different for each one. Japan will only worry about Asia, and not care about what somebody's doing in Africa, whether it's China or the U.S. or whatever. But that the status, is there going to be some sort of African empire run by Africans, or is there going to be an Arab empire run by Arabs? Is Egypt finally going to do its dream of 1,000 years or more, and take Libya as part of its territory. Because of Libya is currently obviously a failed state. And I see these things coming about, within my lifetime. And I don't see. I don't know. Okay, here's a question for you. Being a European sitting in the middle of Europe, is Europe going to mid to long term, not in the next 5 or 10 years, mid to long term, is it going to become expansionistic or continue and be more and more uh, uh, inward looking, however you want to say it? Are they going to want to venture out into the world on their own, or are they going to just look at Europe?
I'd say it depends on what parts of Europe. For example, you mentioned France, and I'd say out of all of Europe, I'd say it's probably France. I'm not talking about Britain here. It's probably France that would have the most would be the most likely to try to expand its influence outside of Europe.
Okay. Now,
but the rest, I'd say, will, at least from what I see in the near future, continue just looking in and look more inward, at least in terms of general policy.
Okay, well, so what in the next 20 years? What do you see? Not like I don't care. Like next 5, 7, like the next 20 years. What do you see the EU looking like?
How should I put this?
There'll probably be something called the EU, whatever shape it has.
Yeah. Probably a somewhat dysfunctional.
Is it going to be like the Holy Roman Empire that just neither Holy nor Roman nor an empire, just sort of a thing that's meaningless mostly? Or is it going to be a more centralizing state?
The thing about is I don't think the Holy Roman Empire is a good thing.
Well, it just but to a point, at least at times, it just ends up just being more of a geographical designation than any sort of.
The problem with the EU is.
Why don't you hit the ready button but still talk? I do want to hear.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that the match was over already. The problem with the EU is that it wants to be centralize.
Right.
The half the governments want to centralize, the other half don't want to centralize. The population largely doesn't want to centralize, with the very liberal urban population does tend to want to centralize, but pretty much everyone else is against it. So meaning that ultimately nothing in terms of real centralization really happens, and what does happen is usually just mostly a just a grand gesture with pretty much nothing behind it. But ultimately the EU does have already strong influence and they don't want to give up that influence. So ultimately, it'll be like a this very similar to how it's now, probably a Byzantine bureaucratic mess of a system that is too big-headed to properly to reform, but also too important to just get rid of. So it just kind of exists in this horrible stasis.
Right. Because, see, what I'm wondering is, you're talking about, and I would agree that France, of any of the nations, for various reasons, is the one most likely to be looking around the world from Europe, even more so than Britain. But would the other nations, through, I guess, like the mechanisms of the EU, push, for France not to, like I say, like I'm not talking about, oh, they're intervening in this country or that country. I'm saying like plant a French flag, and Chad is now French territory, and Senegal or whatever is French territory now, and we're putting in a governor, and he's a Frenchman, and he's working with the locals, and trying to maybe be a modernistic, beneficial colony as opposed to a pure exploitative colony of some sort. But would a would the EU or the other European nations, through the mechanisms of the EU, push
I doubt it.
to oppose?
They will certainly oppose it and condemn it, but ultimately, I don't think they would really, unless France would literally start going like rounding up the people living there and putting them into reservations or something, or doing really bad stuff.
But they have to, because somebody, whatever France does, somebody will claim that. It's just like people. Trump's going to be a dictator. No, he's not.
I'm not talking about things people quote unquote claim. I'm talking about actual irrefutable proof and so on that they are doing it. Because just like people saying oh, they're doing it, ultimately I don't think there might be internal sanctions, but especially with the way that France is poised to become the de facto head of the EU,
Right.
which they will then try to, of course, also use their political, economic, and so on influence within the European Union to buy off critics. And the only country in that case that could oppose them would be Germany, which is so fueled by self-hatred and not wanting to appear bad in front of France, of which it's Germany has a bit of a almost Stockholm syndrome when it comes to France. That it would pretty much be utterly impotent and wouldn't want to actually use its influence to take the power within Europe for itself.
Okay,
So
I'm not changing the subject, but I'm staying on the subject, but I'm wanting to know your evaluation of the effects, because this is definitely parallel, of the claims that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. How is that sort of playing out with not so much the people, the man on the street who just hears a blip on the the news, but how is that playing out with the government?
Well, not all that much, really. like you have of course certain political parties, like you have the left wing parties that support Palestine as their big thing, and so they of course try to use this to like rile up people to get them to vote for them,
Right.
and you have like some of the more central ones who don't particularly care about the accusations of genocide, but who are like somewhat critical of the way Israel is conducting the war, but that won't stop them from supporting them. That'll just have them criticize them. And
No, you see,
the way they
I do want to
choose
hear
to
what
do
you're
this.
going to say, and I was just sitting here thinking how much I value your approach of what you're saying. Hey, Seelan, but are they criticizing the way Israel's running the war to satisfy the public demand, or are they critical of how they're running the war? Meaning, is it just lip service, or is it
A
that, oh yeah,
mixture of
you need to do what you're doing, Israel? It's just our foolish
a mixture
population
of
doesn't.
both. A
Okay.
mixture of from what I gather, a mixture of both. There are some who are like, so Palestinians are all like bad and must be like completely crushed and so on. From what I can gather, and to be fair, this is also me like
Sure.
looking more like from what little I can view, is that quite a lot of politicians do seem to think that Israel is laying it a bit thick, but that's pretty much all. But they'll just criticize it. But ultimately, it is a internal Israeli matter, and they will ultimately support Israel. Though of course, I'm mainly seeing, of course, German politicians, and
Right.
Germany is so far in Israel's camp that you couldn't dislodge it with a sledgehammer.
Right.
Like, if Israel actually started to commit genocide against the Palestinians, I'd actually wouldn't be surprised if Germany would still be fully committed on Israel's side, and just say like a thing of maybe commit the genocide more politely
Right.
at most. So that's like why things I'm saying in this case should maybe be taken with a grain of salt, as I don't have the same insight into like the politicians of, say,
Right.
Sweden or
Because I'm sort of using
Italy.
Israel as a proxy for France's expansion here of what
Yeah,
would these
which
nations
is
actually
why
do.
in this case is again, as I am German, not the best, as again, if Israel started
Right.
to become megalomaniacal and decide to conquer the entire Levant, I'm pretty sure Germany would still back them. So, whereas with France, I'd say there would be for all that the German media and government and so on loves talking about, like the inherited friendship between the countries, and how Germany and France are the bestest of friends, and would have always been the bestest of friends if not for like the evil Bismarck or something. Um, something I'd say there is much more of a point where there would be a certain line at which point Germany would actually oppose France. Whereas with Israel, there's also such a line probably, but that line would be more like actual gas chambers.
Right.
That's
Right. And I'm
that's
understanding what
like
you're
the
saying. Yes.
point where Germany would stop supporting Israel.
Because you know I definitely believe we are entering a post-nuclear peace world. I think most nations who have nuclear weapons realize that whatever the conflict that they're facing currently with other nations, it isn't worth a nuclear exchange. Pakistan and India, where the borders, like Kashmir or whatever, where the borders might change, neither side is going to be the first to use nuclear weapons. They're not going to, use them tactically on the battlefield to stop a push into their territory, because I think Pakistan realizes that India really doesn't want to rule over a huge Muslim majority. They may have thought it back in the 50s, but they don't really want to rule over a Muslim majority peoples, even though they come from the similar ethnic background. And so winning or losing a particular Pakistan-India war isn't worth throwing nukes over that war, because it isn't existential to the existence of either nation or long-term independence of their nation, even if its territory is shifting around. So I see these conflicts coming out, and no one worrying about, oh my God, if two tanks start shooting at each other, whether it's in Poland versus Belarus, or India versus China, neither of them are thinking that that's going to quickly escalate into global thermonuclear war, or even regional thermonuclear war, or whatever you want to call it. So I see more blatant power relations coming. So, and do governments allow the world to spin into chaos, or do they try to make order out of the chaos?
Most part, as I currently see it, it'll first spiral into chaos, and then some will try to make what order they can out of the chaos.
Which is, in essence, recolonialization.
Possibly. I could definitely see some kind of neocolonialism re-emerging with, as I previously mentioned, likely France being the main instigator of it. As
it's not necessarily European or Western-based neocolonialism. It very well could be somebody like China.
All right. I thought we were still talking about Europe. Yes,
well, no, but the idea, if say China, not necessarily planting a variation of the Chinese flag, say in Kenya, that has a some sort of African symbol, but otherwise the Chinese flag, but that they are actively they have troops there, and they're actively installing a local dictator that's their puppet.
I could see China do that.
Yes, would then promote, oh my God, France or somebody else going, we can't, okay, they've got Kenya, we're going to go into Tanzania to block their move, and put our, blatant puppet, not, semi-disguised puppet in, so that, just as a, global power balance thing, and maybe they don't want war with China, like 19th century France and Britain didn't really want war with each other, but they were worried about who was, gobble up the territory.
Pretty much, you mean something like a new great game?
Yes, and that you're not, you may be periodically directly having proxies fight each other, fight the opposition, but mostly you're just like, if you don't get that piece of the map, the other side will get that, eventually will get that piece of the map, and they'll become stronger. So you've got to, again, it can look like British India, in which there were, independent states, that so long as they could be basically independent, so long as they didn't, cause too much trouble or whatever, they could rule themselves, so long as it wasn't chaos, so long as it wasn't, aggressing against neighboring states, and they weren't, doing whatever. They could run themselves. Britain, it was fine with Britain, and other things were more direct puppet states, and then obviously some areas were direct British rule. It was a mix, and so I'm not like saying everywhere necessarily gets a French flag, but France is picking up the pieces and putting down a French flag where it's best, and putting, supporting openly a local dictator here, and another place actually having French troops, but the local flag is still something other than French. But it's very clear that it's French sphere of influence. All
You
that
mean
kind of
you mean like installing protectorates?
yeah, that kind of thing, and a variation, not necessarily a particular formula, but that to the point that you can't the world won't be something that you can just let Somali pirates run rampant because somebody eventually, Russia, China, the U.S., Europe, India, somebody's going to move into that territory and organize it. And yes, if there's going to be a lot of, if the people resist, there's going to be a lot of killing, and it's going to look ugly. I'm not saying, specifically death camps. I'm just saying, artillerying cities and whatnot. Hey, Eric.
Hello, Eric.
And so, with because that's I see that coming, that kind of stuff coming, and it will be neo-colonial. And whether it's neo-colonial in the name of the environment or the name of stopping, China or stopping America or whatever the various factions, I see neo-colonialism is going to happen. Now, again, it might be India moving into places like Somalia because that affects their trade and power balance around the Mediterranean, or not the Indian Ocean, because they're afraid that China will move in and put a base there or something like that. And so that they will, if there's a power vacuum, they will feel the need to move in. So if they're moving in, or China's moving in, yes, and you're right that probably France is, of the current EU nations, is the most likely one. So it's just this impetus, not that France wants to be grandiose. It's more like feeling it needs to intervene.
I'd say it also wants to feel grandiose.
Well, it may, but it may also truly feel the, America as the the superpower governs the regions that it can. Obviously, it's not governing North Korea or China or Russia right now or Iran. There are definite regions that are outside of sort of U.S. influence, but it governs places like Latin America with a very gentle hand, considering what it does. So yeah, they make a lot of noise about America's intervention into their countries, but they don't really do much about it. Where if somebody else was coming in, it would be much more heavy-handed and have different impacts.
Well, better the devil you know than the one you don't.
Yeah, and this is, recently someone did comment on one of my videos who was from Latin America that, yes, and he did recognize that, America does interfere into Latin America, but America also protects over the generations, protects Latin America from non-American expansion into the region. Whether it was communist expansion or, French, particularly expansion into Mexico and other places like that America does, yes, it interferes, but it also interferes to keep other powers out. So yeah, I just sort of wondering how, how are things going to change?
Did Eric want to say something?
I don't know.
I was just wondering what I was tuning into right now.
War Thunder and talking about the future of the world.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
we are planning our eternal dominion.
Ah, I see. I wanted to just let you know, gamer, a very interesting rifle has come up, an Evans rifle.
Evans rifle. I don't know if I know what an Evans rifle is.
It's used. It's a 26 shot repeating rifle from 1873. It
Okay.
has a rotary magazine in the stock.
Okay. I don't. I mean, I may have seen it on some,
It's funky
book,
looking.
book,
It
book
is
that has
very
all
funky.
kinds of funky things in it, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not cognizant of it at the moment that I've ever.
yeah. Just an
Hey, man,
interesting
yeah.
oddity. Just I was wondering
Yeah.
how the hell did that end up in Norway? It was used by Peru, so
Wow. Well, is it expensive or can you afford it?
no, I'm not gonna buy that though.
Well,
There was another. He had a deactivated Krag that I only wanted the parts for, but yeah.
right. You
So
need to
how
save
have-
your money.
I know. How have you guys been actually?
I've been well.
That's good.
I am well, or largely well again. Like the last week and the week before, I had COVID.
Oh. Well, I'm glad
Wasn't
you're
fun.
okay now. Yeah, I've had COVID once before, but it wasn't as bad as. Yeah, I actually felt had a worse reaction to the vaccine than the actual COVID itself. So
Yeah, I had like actual fever and was largely in bed.
oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you're better now.
I'm
Yeah.
also glad I'm better.
Yes. It is an excellent. Yes. Right now. Currently working on the last cannon that I need to add details to for the Panzer ship model that I'm working on. Since I've been waiting for that for a little while because basically no images. However, big brained in my manual for the Navy crewman from 1942, they actually
Uh-huh.
kept the original printing for the cannons from the Panzer ships, even though they didn't exist anymore. So in there's actually a full cutout of the breech and everything and how it should work. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna basically digitally scan them, so I don't have to rustle with the pages while looking at them, and then just get my work on.
Right.
So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
I'm glad to hear it's coming along.
Mm-hmm. Have you also? I don't know if how much did I tell you about the drawings of the Blücher that I have last time?
A fair bit about
Yeah.
meeting the guy who has them, and
Yeah, because the interesting.
you also were telling me about the submarine
Yeah.
stuff that they need for their
Yeah,
diving,
another thing I wanted to
etc.
mention is he recently sued someone or had to press charges against someone up in Narvik.
Uh-huh.
Because he had apparently been caught with Panzer ship memorabilia from the Panzer ships, and the police raided raided the guy's home and found over 200 items from the ship that he had illegally dived down and gotten.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah. Still, he ended up giving them because he didn't want to deal with it, so he gave the items to the Narvik museum up there. So that's probably the items that I've been, using as reference is what was probably recovered. So
Right.
Pretty cool. It reminds me of a video I saw recently of a bunch of divers going down at Scapa Flow to look at one of the German battleships that was scuttled there.
Right.
And the interesting thing is when they came to the propeller engines, they found that underwater someone had placed a German Imperial battle flag at attached it to the engines where it was pretty much waving underwater.
Before or after they were
Well, after, of course, that was probably a modern reproduction. I didn't think a flag will survive all that long.
Well, I was wondering if this was something that was put up and flown before,
No,
being,
it was after. There was also some writing on
scuttled.
it.
Right.
They assumed that it was likely German divers who had went there some time before and put it there as a memorial or tribute.
Right.
But I thought it was kind of cool. So, and we were talking about wrecks and shipwrecks, and so I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it could be someone trying to honor the dead there or something.
Yeah, but generally speaking, you're not supposed to be diving those wrecks without permission.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically in Scapa Flow in the German World War I high seas fleet who owns or who controls or what are the regulations are specifically there. But
yeah.
it's
One thing
generally
that
that sort of thing.
one thing that was really sad that the guy meant, or the one thing that he got really annoyed by, the guy, when he talked about, because he's been in court many times about all this stuff, is even though he owns the ships, there's never any representative from the state, because it's still technically he has he owns it, but it's still also the government's part in it, right? And never has the government shown with a representative. He gets really annoyed because technically it still is their stuff. It's still the Panzer ship when they were suing that guy. That's why not have a representative there, And he was kind of annoyed that they don't, honor their the stuff that's
Well, yeah. I could understand them if it's not a Norwegian, or understand more, shall we say, if it's not a Norwegian ship.
Yeah.
But
it was the Norwegian Panzer ship, and they never.
Yeah.
Nothing came out of the
And because and we were just talking about Germany and its self-hatred, but
the thing at Norway has
I don't know why, and I'm hearing obviously through Eric more about Norway than say Belgium or something, but it does seem that a lot of the European nations are not paying much attention to their history.
Especially Norway, it kind of annoys me. They're shutting down the oldest airport, our first airport, and
Yeah, but from what I don't know, Lum was saying, there isn't much there, Eric.
But Lum is just being his material.
I know Lum. I know who Lum is. I know he can just be that. But
the thing is
how do I? Well, what the hell happened there? Can you tell me what happened there?
There was a battle there during the war. That's where the first German paratroopers landed, and there was a combat there.
Okay, but
and it was also the main aircraft during the war for the German the Luftwaffe there.
Okay, that may be a reason to tear it down.
Also, there was and then after the war, still used by commercial aircraft if our main aircraft or airport is full. My mom remembers when she was a flight attendant, they landed there sometimes.
Okay, well, I just okay, how do I put this? On a Norwegian scale of 1 to 10, how important is this historic site?
I'd say a strong 8 and 9. Because it's our first ever airport.
Well, okay,
literally, first ever.
But what first ever airport?
Our first aircraft flew up from there ever.
Okay, see, I cannot tell you, and I don't know if anybody readily. I'm sure the facts is out there, but I doubt you can meet an American who could tell you, look up easily the first American airport. Now we know Kitty Hawk, the location is where they flew the first airplane, but that wasn't an airport. It was just sand dunes out wherever and good steady wind to fly into. But so the first airport,
Yep, it was opened in 1912 and is
I'm
Norway's
not.
oldest airport. It's
Yeah,
also
okay,
the
but
oldest
yeah,
airport, or the oldest airstrip in the world that's still in service.
okay, but so how much of the buildings and structures or whatever, not just buildings but structures, runways exist currently at the airport that were there in World War II?
I think the strips are still there. I'm trying to find here. There was a bombing by the Allies there, but I do believe the two warehouses that were there during the war are also still there.
Well, okay, my sort of, I think you're getting it. My point is, are they all modern buildings right now? You know, have all the historic ones, or are they all historical buildings then? Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah.
mix. It's a
Yeah,
mixture
okay,
of both new and old.
okay. And so, yeah, I hear you, Eric, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be preserved. I just wonder at how important
Yeah.
this preservation. Now, I'm not saying, again, I'm not like saying they should tear it down. I'm not saying it shouldn't be preserved. I just don't have personally enough information to make a
Yeah.
decision on it. But
Also,
yeah,
they normally host a what's it called? Every year, it's called like Scheller Day, where it's like a air show
right,
where a bunch of bunch of people from, because it's right next to, it's pretty close to Oslo, so a lot of people go there.
right,
And it has a lot of historical aircraft stored there.
right.
So that's gonna have to be moved. So
Yeah, and they've had to do that in California, move out
yeah, it's
historic.
I can they want to build buildings, like they want to build apartments on top of there, and you know this is just me because I'm a history buff. I just find it
Yeah, and
literally
I'm
could
not,
have gone
and
anywhere
you can
else.
hear I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just wondering, what battles to fight, what historical preservation battles to fight. You can't fight them all. You can't turn your entire country into a historical monument. You have
No,
to.
no, no, no. But
Yeah, I'm not
literally, the
saying you're
oldest
saying that,
airstrip, yeah, the
but
oldest
it just
airstrip would at least count for something, something when it comes to like preservation. And there's hobby aircrafts like there's two clubs there that have hobby like air.
okay,
I don't know.
okay.
Yeah.
But let me get back to oldest airstrip. You keep going to that.
hmm
Were there any Norwegian designed aircraft there, or were these just
Yeah, that's
okay?
literally where like this is where Norwegian aircraft design sparked. Shelle aircraft. That's the
Okay,
main army airstrip from like start. Like yeah, it's the first
yeah,
one. That's
yeah.
where
Okay,
everything was
well,
shown up.
okay. Because I don't know quite honestly anything about Norwegian
Air,
um,
yeah.
air development.
Very
And so
interesting because it was
yeah,
split in half.
and so some countries, oh sure that there were a few I don't know Serbians out trying to trying to make an aircraft in 1910 or 1914 or whatever before the war starts. Yeah, but is there really a Serbian aircraft industry? I don't believe so.
Yeah, no,
So it's just you
it's
know
where it was where we built our
the first
first.
flat place that someone took off and landed an aircraft in my country, pick whatever country, to me is near meaningless. Maybe it's just because I'm an American,
Mhm.
but if hey, this is where something happened. This is where the first flight of the famous aircraft, whatever
Yeah,
happened. If you got enough of that, well, then it's more worth keeping. But yeah, I'm generally for preserving
in fact,
most
it's
historical places.
this was used by the army for aircraft testing before the Air Force was even formed. So
Right.
that's really the birthplace of the Norwegian Air Force.
Yeah.
And in 1914, it was uh, adopted as the formal air school of the Norwegian Army Air Force because there was split in half. It was a Navy Air Force, which was in Horten, where they built the ships, because they had a proper testing area there for water boats. Whilst this was the Army Air Force. They
Well,
even had a
gentlemen, I
factory
think
there.
yeah, I think we're going to end the live stream here. I
Mhm.
want to thank you all. Thank you, Dino. Thank you, Eric, for showing up. Sealand
Yep.
and Henry Knoxville and Folk, if you're still around, and Jamnuska, if you're still around. Thanks for hanging out. It has been, and ZZ, if you're still around, just checking who's said hi in there. Yes. Thanks, everyone. I should be back next weekend with both some sort of strategic command and more Hearts of Iron. So, no,